to today's episode of Physioplata. I'm your host, Dr. Rod Henderson, alongside my co-host, Dr. Patrick Damreth. And we got some stuff to talk about today in terms of what's been going on with you in your comp classes. We got stuff to talk about the nervous system, the vestibular function. So we got some good topics to cover today. Cool. I think we got some things to discuss that you probably don't typically think about when we do jiu-jitsu and combat sports. But since the brain and the nervous system are a big part of how we function, we figured we'd talk about that as well. But first, you got a comp coming up.
Yeah.
IBJJF Austin.
Yep, Austin Summer Open.
Austin Summer Open. That is July
15th and 16th.
15th and 16th.
Yeah.
Right. So tell me about it, man. How's it going?
Prep is going well. You know, you got a few bumps and bruises here and there. Nothing unusual. That doesn't come with hard training. You know, that's part of it. Dude, I think honestly my biggest problem is just the weight classes because I'm competing at 220 and under or 222 and under. Yeah, I can't. And like the 213 mark, I can't break it. Like sometimes I'll be at 216, but mostly, you know, depending on how much hydration I have. So that's definitely the most challenging part for me. But
So wait, your problem is you feel like you're going to be too small.
I'm too small. Yeah. I'm too small.
What's the next lowest?
210, and that's too small for me.
You're 213.
Yeah, but I'm actively training hard to gain weight as well. I don't feel good at 209. I'm very dehydrated.
That'd be a tough one.
That'd
be a tough one. You'd either be a big 210 or you're going to be a little 220.
I think I'll go with a little 220 because I feel like I'll be just basically dead.
Okay.
At 210 and under.
Okay.
Especially with the gi, you got to take that into account. Like the gi adds like maybe 2 pounds.
Okay. I'm eager to see that. I can't wait to see who you roll against.
Oh my God.
Because I just had this conversation with another guy in my gym, and he just got finished doing the World Series of Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah, the Jiu Jitsu World League. You mean
Jiu Jitsu World League? I don't know why I keep calling it World Series.
I like poker too, but that's a different thing.
I think there's a World Series. I don't know.
Maybe
there's so many tournaments, but we were talking, and he is. I think he was in the 195 division, and he didn't get smashed, but the guy that he rolled against definitely cut weight to get to that division. He's kind of a little guy.
That's the thing for me too. Like the guys that I go against they're massive.
Well, a lot of them cut to get to that.
They cut to
division.
get to that. Yeah. And so. I do, but I'm going by I guess I don't know if I read it in Hickson Gracie's book, but he's always inviting the challenge, you know, rather than mitigating it and trying every single way to make it as easy as possible. And he goes by the, you know, mindset, I guess, also of like it shouldn't matter how heavy you are, right? Obviously, we know for a fact it matters and how strong you are. But I feel like in my case, even if they come in at 225 or whatever, hydrated, you know, after weighing in, that's maybe like still a 10-pound difference for me. I feel like personally, I should be able to do that or bridge that gap with my jiu-jitsu, you know?
Are the weigh-ins the day of? They are.
They are actually really... So
that's good.
Yeah, they're really actually close to the match. As far as I understand, that's my first time doing the IBJJF. But like for the Jiu-Jitsu World League, for example, you can weigh in as early as you want.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as you get there, you can... And then they got tables, everything set up there. I mean, you can have a picnic before your match, gain 10 pounds. You know what I mean?
Which I think some of them do.
I bet. But still, yeah. So I feel like, you know what? That's on me. I should be able to handle that and make up with technique and skill level if there's a weight difference and strength difference. That's the way it should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, I get you, man. You're going to do fine. You're going to have a good time. Yeah. Well, it's exciting, man.
Yeah. But, dude, man, I don't know. I don't know if you felt that at some point when you were training, but Jesus, man, sometimes... And I made a post about that on my IG as well, just recently, like how great of a high you can get from having a great session, a great training session. Everything is clicking well. Your technique is really on point, and you're able to get to where you need to sweep, submit, and it's really smooth. And then, dude, man, maybe 2 days later or maybe even the next day you have another training session and you just get whooped. And for me, it was exactly that. It was like, I don't even remember where I felt like it was so bad. I immediately forgot how good the one session was before that, you know. I mean, it's like so high and then dive down, like makes me, dude, I was like, man, I kind of want to quit.
It's just the highs and lows, man. It's and I think everybody who trains and competes knows that feeling, man. And it doesn't make it any less real, you know, because when it's you. So it's like, you think, like, I hear you talking about this. You just had a bad practice. I had a decent practice the other day. And I'm like, oh man, you'll be all right. But you know, I know those practices where I go home and I'm just like, you know, you're driving home and there's no music, you know, you're just like staring off into space, you know, and it's just like, man, I'm not sure if I should do this, and it's very frustrating. I don't know, jiu-jitsu just be that way, man. It's just
it is,
fun.
man.
It's just crazy.
For me, it was just so bad.
Well,
it was like, one day I'm triangling people, armbarring, kimura here, there, no problem. Even get a sneaky little ankle lock, you know what I mean? And then the next day I get like choked out by a white belt. And it was like I mean, I don't think I've been choked out that hard in years. I was like seconds away from going dark.
You just kind of slept on a white belt.
Zero Dark 30 was knocking on the door, man. But yeah, no, and then I tap and got released out, and it hit me afterwards. Like I'm already good. I'm just sitting there all of a sudden.
It's like staring up at the ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, shouldn't I set up too fast?
Yeah, man.
Jeez, man.
That can really jack with your confidence. I understand that, but I mean, you know your game. I've rolled with you. You've rolled with other guys. You're good to go, man. You're good to go.
I feel like
you're how long have you been a blue belt?
Dude, I don't even want to talk about it.
Okay, so you've been a blue belt for a little while. Now. And I mean, but you know, and I just got my purple. We still, like, we do some good things, but then every now and then we do something really stupid.
Really stupid.
and it's like, and you're like, what was that?
That's my problem. I do 2-3 good things and then like 4 or 5 really dumb things, and I'm like right back where I started.
That seems to be the only thing that's changed. I still do really stupid things, but like as a white belt, it was like 100% stupid, and then at blue belt, it was like 60% stupid. Now it's just like 40%. You know, maybe as a purple belt.
That's good. Moving in the right direction.
It's getting there, but well, good.
Yeah. So you know, we'll see, man. You know what? Those kind of things, like I had so many ups and downs. And I've had, thankfully, you know, more positive training experiences where it's really been working well. So I don't feel, my confidence level isn't really changed by the fact that, you know, I had some bad training sessions in the last 3 weeks or so. It's probably just going to depend on how I feel when I get there, because for me, it's just more a challenge to get used to the different environments, because some places are really loud and some places are packed. Everybody's really close together. And then this one seems like it's probably going to be spaced out a little bit more. So it's a little bit more intimate. You know what I mean? Like with your opponent and your coaches are close by, you can actually hear them probably. That's what I'm just going to have to see. And the thing is, you know what? I can't expect, or I guess somebody shouldn't expect to do perfectly well when they're not competing very often or frequently. For me, it's like maybe once or twice a year. So I'm just always checking my expectations and just trying to do, I'm just trying to perform the best I can in that particular moment. So, you know, I'm just focusing, I guess, on my game plan and making sure I don't make mistakes, and then we'll see what it comes out to. And that's like my mindset going in. So
yeah, I think you're going to be fine. I mean, and I think you're right. We have a guy at our gym that competes all the time. He's just constantly competing, and you know, with very little exception, he's doing very, very well in competitions. And then those of us who don't compete nearly as much, and I think it's a little harder because, you know, the competitions, they're just different, man. You know, everybody just grips a little harder. Everyone goes for things a little bit more intensely. So, but it's all good, man. you know, you're gonna be good to go. It's gonna be fun to look at your matches and then talk about it afterwards. I can't wait to have those conversations because but I think you're gonna do great, man.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. It'll be fun. You know.
Yeah, well, proud of you for getting out there, man.
Yeah. So how about you? How's your little boo-boo going?
The boo-boo, the knee boo-boo is fine. Just a completely unexplainable, just a little tweak in my knee that I got a couple weeks ago. Rolling with a buddy, and it's coming along. You know, thankfully, had you take a look at it and clear it out for a few things and give me some great ideas to do. And I've been following through with your recommendations for the most part. You know, I've been awesome. Mostly compliant patient, and it's getting a lot better. I started off rolling pretty tentatively with it earlier this week, and then you know, like I said,
tell that story. I think it's always funny because we're obviously human too, right? From the PT perspective, you'd think, you know, some people looking from the outside in, they're like, oh yeah, they do everything perfectly well, and right? No, we do dumb stuff all the time too. So yeah. I remember we had one roll. You know, there's the guys that you train with a lot. You know, there's guys that you seem to just always get the rolls with, and they're, for the most part, my rolls this week have been very like, okay, if I have to give up a position because I can't get this sweep going because of this knee, I'm just let it go. That's fine. I'll let the position go. I started rolling with my buddy, and I was in a kind of a tough spot, and I knew that if I gave up this position, I was going to have a long round. You know, it was just going to be a tough time, you know, staying on the bottom. And I remember just kind of thinking we were kind of right at that point, and I was just like, man, fuck this, man, I gotta go, you know, and I just kind of completely forgot about my knee, and just I moved, and so it turned out okay. But at the same time, I remember at the end of the roll, kind of going, oh, I'm gonna pay for that one later on. But it was just my ego. I did not, you know, even though, you know, he knew I'm dealing with this little knee thing. I knew I was dealing with a little knee thing. You know, you just kind of get in that moment, and you just kind of go for it. And fortunately, like, it worked out, and I got on top, but, you know, kind of tweaked my knee a little bit, but it's all good. Well, I think, you know, what you were saying is important in the beginning, because you deliberately, you try to stick to this strategy of making sure that you're only doing the things that would, you know, impact your knee the least, and sticking to that, you know? And I mean, I think that's the main thing, is if you're doing really your due diligence to stick to that plan, and then every once in a while, obviously, you're going to push a little bit more. You know, sometimes you forget, like you said, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think the main thing is just trying to be mentally aware and mindful of what your strategy should be that training session, to help you with the following training sessions, and then kind of just get the ball rolling. So that's exciting, man. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was good having your eyes on it, so we could you know, clear it out, make sure it was not something that I was missing, and it's been working out. So it's getting a little bit better. I think, you know, at my age and at my ability level, I'm kind of at that point where I'm trying to figure out, do I want to, you know, how hard do I want to be pushing this? Because I got guys around me that are wanting to compete a lot. So I'm wanting to, you know, be in that speed. I want to train hard with them. But at the same time, sometimes when I start really pushing the pace, my body reminds me sometimes that I'm a little bit older and I need to be. So part of the challenge of the last 2 weeks with my knee has been like, am I going to be the guy that can compete? And they go, hey man, I guess, you know, he's an older guy, he's competing a lot. Or should I be, hey, you know, I'm the guy at the gym who can give you a good roll and maybe not compete as much. I don't know. I'm still in my brain. I'm kind of having those little things that I've been pondering lately. But,
do you know that guy? He's the coach, and he trained George St. Pierre. His name is the TriStar guy. What's his name again?
Faraz Sahabi.
Faraz.
One of my absolute favorites. As a matter of fact, I was just watching one of his, before you got here, I was just watching one of his instructions.
Well, I'm curious if you watched the one I watched, because I don't know if it was a recent one or an older one, but I was watching about his video, and he was giving his perspective on, he was given kind of also the example of George St. Pierre, because the way they train is very deliberate. He was, for example, saying that every Monday, no matter what, George would do his physio work, right? So sometimes I guess he sees a physio, maybe sometimes he's just doing his physio work. And that's every Monday, whether he has a problem or not, you know what I mean? And then he's also going on to say that your training will vary during the week depending on how you feel. So he would go on to say that when he was when the body was feeling more fatigued or not as strong, he would do either one of few things. He would roll, but only roll every other roll, take one roll out every time after he rolled. Or he wouldn't roll at all, and he would just do technique. And his argument was basically saying that, well, even if you are not sparring and rolling, your technique continues to get better and better and better, whether you're hurt or whether you're just taking it light, you know? And then he would go on to say, well, if you're feeling like your body's in a better position or a better shape, then you push your cardio a little bit more. You try to go a little bit more on the sparring side of things. But his point was you should be flexible and fluid with how your training regimen is based on your feeling, basically, of how your body is performing or how ready you are.
Yeah. And I've heard Faraz talk about that kind of intuitive style of training. And for me, it's always appealed to me. I've always liked, it's like, hey, some days I go into the gym, I want to train harder, so I train harder. And some days I go to the gym and I feel like I'm not feeling it. Maybe I'm not training so hard. And then I know that there's that side of things. And then there's another mode of training, which is a little bit like, on this day, we are going hard. And no matter how you feel, when you walk into the gym, if you feel bad, we're going hard. If you feel good, we're going hard. And so there's like two different types of approaches that you can take when you train. I don't know which is the most superior, because you see very successful people take those two different types of approaches. Obviously, GSP, kind of hard to argue with his track record and results. And Faraz has actually put out some really great grapplers, and the TriStar gym is fantastic. It's part of the Danaher lineage. He's a Danaher black belt. So, I mean, but then I know guys are like, hey, we're going hard and heavy, and I don't do quite as well under those circumstances, but ultimately I do tend to advocate for my patients as well. I mean, we talk about this with our patients. Some days you can do a little bit more. Do more. Some days when you're feeling like garbage, don't try to force yourself to do more. Just do what you can. And so clinically, the intuitive approach appeals to me a little bit more. Personally, it appeals to me. So, I think I'm probably going to keep doing that until I start seeing it consistently fail me.
One other thing I want to mention that he was saying is that, and I would just want to emphasize this, that even if you're not feeling well, or if you are hurt or injured, modifying and still going to the gym is important, because he was bringing up this argument of, if you don't go to the gym and train, whether that be just doing technique or whether that be just doing cardio, right? Just going to the gym, just moving, you can do your rehab exercises at the gym, right? At the gym.
There, while people are there. Rolling.
While people are there. Yes. And that's so important, he says, because of this argument that he brought up about introducing new variables or new habits or just activities. Because when you're injured, you're not training, you will fill that time with something else. Now, trying to get back into training, this time that's been taken up by all these other activities that he was saying you would start doing would be twice as hard to come back, not only because you're having to work on your conditioning and strength and skills, but also because you have to now eliminate or modify those activities you introduced into your routine that take up the time that you would usually spend training.
That's such an amazing point, because I believe strongly in that. If you're injured, I see this all the time. They're not coming to class because they've got an injury. They're putting their memberships on hold because of an injury. And I really think that's not a great idea. I don't think that's the way you should be doing it. I think you still, if you can, get up to the gym and just do your rehab exercise. It might feel a little weird at first. Everybody else is rolling and drilling and doing all this stuff. But get up to the gym, get around your teammates. I was there the other night, and I knew there was some stuff that I couldn't do, but I just enjoyed there's something about being in the training room with all your teammates there and cutting up, and I think there's an effect. There's kind of that social effect that it has as well. Plus, like you said, to your point, you still maintain that rhythm of getting up to the gym. And when you're not going to the gym, if you skip that class, maybe you're doing something else that's not as healthy for you.
Probably, man. Most likely you are going to. And here's the thing. It translates off the mats too, right? In research, I know this has gone down a few years here, but in research, we see that when people are retiring, their quality of life goes down really quite a bit, and it's because they're not moving enough. They're not having that routine, and there's multiple variables and factors, right, as to why people aren't feeling as good anymore. Of course, like that purpose might be lost of what they had, but the main thing that I'm always trying to push is for anybody who's in that age range, you got to find something to do. You got to have something that gets you up and going, gets you moving, and that stimulates your brain function, your body as well. It's just, you have to fill it with something. You can't just do nothing, because then your quality of life goes way down and your morbidity risk is way up.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge, to me, it's one of the biggest, we don't talk about it that much. We're always talking about, hey, what exercise do you do and that kind of stuff. And those are always interesting conversations. But to me, keeping yourself in your training environment is a huge part of the recovery. And that doesn't mean you have to just go sit and watch class. I mean, try to get to class, talk to your coach, let them know, talk to your teammates. They're going to understand. If you're doing jiu-jitsu, they're going to understand injury. They're going to understand the fact that you're trying to recover. And you showing up, even though you have an injury and you're trying to recover, it sends a message to yourself. It sends a message to your teammates that you're invested in them. And I think it's a good practice. So keep going to the gym. Don't put your memberships on hold when you get injury. Keep showing up. Keep showing up.
One last thing you can do is just take notes and write down what you see, and maybe like break down certain techniques. Just writing, that is another way of learning. And I've done that before, and I've done that. I've done a training session, and then I went to a comp class, and it was just not in the cards for me that day, and I felt like, this is a bad idea. I shouldn't be training. I don't know if it was fatigue related or injury related or whatever, but I just sat and I took notes, and the drills that I saw during the week that people used in comp class to pass or whatever, sweep, I saw it a lot more once I started to write it down, and it clicked a lot more too. Like, and when it didn't work, I saw why it didn't work, and I wrote it down. Nice. And it helped me then to, get better at that myself. So, I mean, you shouldn't neglect writing things down. I think that's important too. Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
Yep.
Well, that was a tangent. I don't think we expected to go down that tangent. That's really, really cool though. I think it's a really good point. It's a big reason of why you and I started this podcast, is to try to maximize the factors that are going to keep you enjoying your jiu-jitsu journey and minimizing the effect. I think injuries are going to happen, but you can minimize their impact by doing some things that are going to make life a little bit easier for you as you recover. Well, let's get started on today's topic. So I know you and I had talked at length offline about the role of the nervous system, and this is a very interesting topic because I know one thing that we experience when we first start in jiu-jitsu, and I don't know if folks out there have experienced the same thing, but if you're an adult who doesn't have much of a background in sports or athletics, you start into jiu-jitsu, one of the first things you're going to encounter is, especially you start to do forward rolls and back rolls. If you've never put your butt over your head before, you're going to get dizzy. You're going to, you roll. You say, okay, the coach says, okay, everybody, we're going to do Granbys, we're going to do forward rolls and back rolls. And
two each, two front, two back, two Granbys.
Two laps.
Switch halfway.
Yeah, absolutely. Granbys one way, Granbys the other way. Yeah. And they're just like, or cartwheels. We do cartwheels.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we do cartwheels. Oh, yeah, still got good cartwheels, man. I was a gymnast. So.
Tenth planets.
Yeah, man, I know. But it's very, very common to experience some dizziness. Mm-hmm. And I had somebody ask me the other day, said, man, is that normal? and then it was just started. I said, man, I get kind of dizzy. And yeah, it's very, very normal. If did you experience any kind of dizziness when you first started? You played basketball. You played. You swam. Did you swim?
I did swim.
You swim.
That's an interesting point. I wonder if swimming helps with the vestibular system because you play around underwater, and I dive as well. So like, I wonder if that has a big impact.
Oh, so you dove? You dove? Okay.
Oh, well, not that kind of diving.
okay.
I have done that before as well, especially when I was younger and doing all the sports stuff all at once. But specifically like scuba diving too. I was just curious. That's a good point. I never thought about that. It actually it trains your vestibular system a little bit as well, your nervous system.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about when we talk about the vestibular system. It's really kind of a complicated subsystem of the nervous system, and I've always found it fascinating in my practice. Particularly, we get patients with BPPV, which is like a vertigo.
Let me take a crack at it.
Yeah, go ahead. BPPV. Do it.
Benign positional.
Paroxysmal.
Yeah,
no, it's a weird. That's why I know, dude. It's tough.
That was
dude.
just somebody just let.
Hey man,
somebody from 10th Planet.
Yeah, some 10th Planet nerd.
So just throw in a weird.
No, BPV. Yeah, vertigo. You get dizzy for no good reason. You just get dizzy, and so that's a situation where your vestibular system is off, and there's a lot into the vestibular system. It's a combination. It's like an integration of the information that your body sends into your brain, and you've got this little network of semicircular canals that help regulate your head position, and all along with the information from your eyes. All this information gets fed in, and it helps us kind of keep ourselves upright and moving. And so when we disturb that system quickly with like a quick rotation, or if we drink too much, that's another good example. If you drink too much,
impact.
You get what's that? Yeah, you get hit in the head, you get your bell rung. It throws that system off, and so that's what makes you get a little bit loopy. You can't really walk very well. But that system, that vestibular system, is heavily stressed when we do combat sports and Jiu Jitsu in particular. So the short answer is yes. It's very common to get dizzy when you start training, and your system though will typically habituate to that. You get used to it, and doing things like Granbys and forward rolls and back rolls are really great ways to kind of keep that system stressed enough and tune it to the activities that you're going to be doing. So I remember you were mentioning that you think it makes a good case for using forward rolls, back rolls, Granbys during the warm-ups.
Yeah, I do. And especially as many as you can tolerate, because I feel like stimulating that system is important to keep it healthy and functioning well. So sometimes I'm of the mindset of, I prefer not to do as many because I do get dizzy if I do, let's say, maybe more than 3 in a row. And now thinking about it, of course, though, it depends on how dizzy you get. If you're feeling dizzy, but it feels like something that, we should talk about that probably too, because that's a common, not just question, but an issue, because like, how far do you push it? You don't want to push it so much that you're throwing up, right? So stimulating that system can be different from one time to the next when you're doing those forward or backward rolls, and speed is a factor. So I would say if you have a mild to moderate onset of dizziness, you can tell me how you're feeling or thinking about it. But I feel like if you have a mild to moderate, sense of dizziness, or, kind of having a difficulty staying straight after you've done the forward or backward rolls, I feel like that is still within normal limits or ranges and a good challenge to that system. But if you're feeling like you're needing to slow down, I feel like you should definitely listen to how your body's feeling. But don't see that as a negative thing, because it's a healthy stimulus to your vestibular system. It might just take your vestibular system or your nervous system longer to get accustomed to this sensation. Yep. And then, you talked about something off camera that we're talking on habituation.
Yep.
So it's actually a treatment method, right? For somebody who has vestibular issues.
Yeah.
Like we do habituation.
Yeah, a big treatment element for BPPV is to begin directly stimulating the vestibular system through head maneuvers and body maneuvers, and oftentimes they're pretty strong and they can be very unpleasant. So when we're treating people with vertigo in the clinic, oftentimes you got to have a garbage can nearby just in case they get sick, and so it gets in those situations it's pretty extreme. You shouldn't expect to get sick when you do forward rolls and back rolls in the gym. But there's definitely that window where it's like a little bit of dizziness, just like pain or anything else. It's a little bit is just kind of a signal for you to be aware that, hey, your body was just stressed out a little bit, and it's okay to proceed a little bit more. It's not really a red light sign. It's more like just kind of a green turning into a little bit of a yellow sign. It'll go back to green here real soon. And so practicing forward rolls and back rolls, not just as part of your warm up, but maybe even between practices, not a bad idea to do. I see people, that go from being very sedentary into doing jiu-jitsu. And I mean, the vestibular part of it is really, really tough for them.
It hits hard.
Yeah, it does. It hits pretty hard. I mean, there's all kinds of other stuff. I mean, you're exhausted, your joints are hurting and everything, but then also you're dizzy. It kind of sucks.
Cherry on top.
Oh man, it's just an awful experience. But you habituate. Your body slowly habituates. But I think the vestibular system is really, really fascinating, and it can. Usually it's something that after your first few weeks of starting jiu-jitsu, it habituates pretty quickly. But if you've ever dealt with a concussion, sometimes these things can linger. I've had a couple clients that have had post-concussion syndrome and things like that from getting their bell rung. And the vestibular stuff can last and linger for a little while. And so you got to be a little bit, careful about how you stress that system.
Yep.
Not doing too much too soon.
Definitely. I think, and I think the height also matters. So if you do it from standing or if you're doing it from kneeling, that is a big difference, whether or not you're doing a forward or backward roll from there on that position. So let's say if you're having symptoms, I'd recommend probably starting off of your knees or bent knees, lower position. And I mean, sometimes starting from your knees makes the technique a little bit more challenging because you need a little momentum.
Right.
But if you're having issues with the height or the speed from doing it in a standing position, I think doing it in a kneeling or bent over position is your way to go. Start with one and then add another one in a quick consecutive manner, like behind the first one. And if you're feeling like that was too much of a stimulus, give yourself a few steps of rest or standing, just reacclimate after you've stimulated your nervous and vestibular system, and then do another one. And just kind of like over time, I mean, you can see it in the practice room where you have people who are just now starting jiu-jitsu and they're starting with the warm-ups, and you can see how they are getting faster. You can see how they're getting much cleaner with their transition, and they might still get some dizziness, but a lot of times they're not getting the same symptoms as they did the first couple of times. Yeah. And that's that habituation that we're talking about. And just the wealth of benefit that it brings to your nervous system with the proprioception, being aware where your body is in space, it's just fundamentally necessary.
Yeah, I really do think it's necessary, and being able to engage and participate in these combat sports where there's so much input into so many different sensory systems. There's touch, there's pressure, there's all kinds of input. I think it's just one of the reasons why these sports are so good for us. But making sure that we're doing them in the right doses for the right, at the right time and place is an important part. From a rehab perspective, I do think something that it's of interest to me is that when people don't participate in these things, when they're, when you get somebody that comes in the clinic that's clearly been relatively sedentary for the last 15 to 20 years, you just see a sensitization. So we talk about habituation. It's where the nervous system adapts to stress. And then you get sensitization where the nervous system becomes more sensitive to certain situations. So I think, you do something like a combat sport or jiu-jitsu or wrestling or even boxing, I think your body habituates to physical and neurological stress, and even metabolic stress. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the reasons why I recommend it so much to people, even though, even for somebody who's sedentary, who's hadn't been very active, hasn't been doing much, it's never too late to pick up wrestling, to pick up grappling, to pick up boxing. These things challenge so many different aspects of human performance. And if you're in the right setting, it can be so good for you.
Yeah. And I want to just bring up that point of boxing, of what you were just describing with how it benefits the nervous system and the muscular system. Of course, boxing is used as a successful treatment method for like Parkinson's disease. Have you ever seen that?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I've got a video on YouTube of me boxing with a Parkinson's patient. Cool. Yeah. So it's from back in 2016 or 15, I can't remember which, but that's one of the things that started me along the journey of getting into combat sports was seeing the effect of this woman's nervous system, how she would come into the waiting room and she'd be shuffling and very slow and very deliberate. And we'd put on the boxing gloves, and at first it was very tentative, and she was just like, you want me to hit you? It was kind of like Fight Club. I want you to hit me as hard as you can. And then after a while, she really started wailing away at these pads. And of course, I had no background in boxing. I had no real concept. I studied some just to kind of get, but after these sessions, she would just, her stride length was so much longer. She was, her facial expressions, Parkinson's, a lot of times you have your facial expressions, aren't, you get kind of a flat affect. Yeah. She was emoting a lot more, she was smiling a lot more. It was just freaking awesome. And so I thought there's really something to this, because at the end she was sweating. She was, we obviously were stressing multiple aspects of her nervous system and metabolic system. And so I thought, well, there's got to be something to this. And of course, not long after that, I started jiu-jitsu. I was like, oh yeah, I get it. I get it. There's so much going on. But again, it's about trying to find that sweet spot where you're not overstressing. And, you start overstressing when you're in your 20s and 30s. I think you can overstress and be okay. You start getting in your 30s and 40s, the overstress becomes more of a factor. In your 50s and beyond, it's something you really have to stay a little bit more attuned to. But, it's just a matter of keeping track of all that stuff as much as you can. And, being able to pay attention to that and still enjoy the sport.
And I want to, maybe you'll find this entertaining. I want to give you another story as to why I think doing those frequently is important. The forward rolls, backward rolls.
Go.
I was playing basketball, okay? And sometimes, I don't know if you've ever had this sensation, but if there's like a clean court and your shoes are clean, the friction is really strong. So what had happened is, imagine like I'm dribbling at the 3-point line, straight in front of the basket. I'm cutting left. Somehow, some way, my feet get tripped, and I was going forward straight to the floor. But I was able to tuck and just do a forward roll. No problem. Just keep on going. Yeah. So I think obviously we can't use this for fall prevention for older individuals. But this is what I'm trying to get to. It's like that proprioception. Your reactive time is much better by stimulating your nervous system and muscular system in that way. There's just a lot of benefits to gain out of something so simple. If you do it right, and by all means, ask your instructor if you've not done it before and you're wanting to learn it and be doing it well. Just ask for some help. But that's why I'm trying to push that. It's something that we often don't think about, that all of us do in a warm up, at least at some point. It's like, why are we doing this? But there's all these benefits as to why we're doing that. It's not just to entangle in a leg entanglement.
not just to take up time.
Roll, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, there's a specific reason. And there's a ton of benefits to doing it. So do it well, and be present when you're doing it, because you need to also be mindful of where your hands are landing, where your feet are landing. Are you rolling well through it, or are your feet smacking the mat when you're landing? I mean, those are all important things. I mean, it's just like doing something and learning it to the best of your ability. And I think jiu-jitsu is a great sport for that, because you need to be able to do let's take a sweep. I need to be able to do the scissor sweep on you, but I need to do that well on somebody that's my size too, my length. And I mean, it's just, you are always going to find variables that will make your technique a little bit different, and you should be able to do it 100 different ways.
Yeah,
and really do it well.
Well, and I think it's a really good point, because and you've probably encountered this, where if you're in your 20s and 30s and you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, wow, how is getting up, how is rolling, it probably doesn't connect with why this is such a big deal. But you've probably encountered this, where you get somebody that's in their 60s and you say, okay, we're going to get down to the floor and then we're going to get back up. And then they look at you like, we're going to do what? Are you serious? I can't believe, and then it started getting me to ask people, hey, when was the last time you've been down to the ground and then back up? Yeah. What was that experience like? And some people have no concept of how to get down to the ground and then back up. If you're in your 20s and 30s and you do any kind of combat sport or jiu-jitsu, you don't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
You don't even have to think about it so much that you take it for granted, I think, how easy it is to get down to the floor and then back up. But that's a big deal. As a matter of fact, it's a big predictor of mortality. 5-year mortality for elderly folks. If you can't get down to the ground and back up, that's a big deal. And being able to have that capacity to do that and not decompensate, get dizzy, know where to put just like you said, know where to put your hands, know where not to put your hands, know how to do that smoothly, and to preserve that ability. We talk about cardiovascular health, we talk about strength, but the ability to coordinate your body when you're under that kind of like vestibular stress, man, that's something you need to keep and practice. Like you said, mindfully in your warm-ups. Don't just kind of just go through the motions. Don't go through the motions, man. Do the warm-ups, and I think you'll start seeing the difference. You'll really notice the difference when you start talking to some of your older training partners or people that don't train, that are a little bit older. Ask them, hey, when was the last time you got down to the ground and back up? Can you do it? And man, it'll blow your mind how many people can't do that.
Yeah. There's no reason you shouldn't at least do them on a frequent basis, especially if you're training grappling or jiu-jitsu or anything like that. So
yeah, for real.
I think the biggest message of this particular segment is just appreciate the backward rolls, the Granbies, appreciate them, get good at them.
Yeah. Get off your neck. Don't Granby across your neck.
Don't
Granby across your shoulders.
Yeah. Don't do that. But and then that's where your instructor comes in. Just ask, just learn it. And the reason you should learn it is because of all those benefits we just talked about, why you're going to benefit from it, not just on a nervous system basis, but your muscular system, tendon strength.
Yeah.
I mean, all those things are going to play a big role.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu is great, man. It's good. It's tough on the body sometimes, but it's giving you benefits now that you won't realize that how important these benefits are when you get older. So really, really try to do the things that are going to keep yourself on the mat. That's really important, guys. Well, that's all we got for today. So catch us next time. If you've got questions, please do us a favor. Please the algorithm by clicking like and subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know what you'd like us to talk about, and we'll get it up there for you. In the meantime, we'll see you next time. Peace.
Until next time, guys. Peace out.